It's over!
My life story like Black Rob drinking OE. That brolic shit broken down like Matt Hardy. See through these eyes of people my mind see. It's fucked up, ain't it? No need to remind me, but let me get to it. The stupid shit I was doing left other men dead of their lives is just ruined. From ODs to stick-ups going wrong, I stay sharp. Can think the way my mind think, dog. You not evolved. Used to snip pills out straws in bathroom stalls. Self-loathing scar, give me anything, I get it off. Coke pills, weed, shrooms, you name it, I sold it, and I ain't proud of that. That's why I never fucking told you keep this shit real. Had a problem with blue pills, was hustling a product, that product could got me killed.
What up, Corner Crew? Welcome to the Culture Corner Wrestling Year in Review episode. It's our first live episode, actually. You know, usually we pre-record these things, but we wanted to get this one out there because the year's almost over. So welcome, Shaw Elemental, my co-host. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful, my man.
Yes, sir. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I mean, it was been a crazy year, and both WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA is coming back this year. So, I mean, yeah, we got a lot of shit that we can talk about year in review style. We're going to give our predictions for 2024 near the end of the episode also. But yeah, let's start off, man. Royal Rumble was crazy. Return of Cody after his injury, you know. Cementing his babyface, like historic babyface run that he's going to be going on here soon, and he wins as predicted by most of us. I know you're a fan. I'm not. So
I am, and it's crazy too because you look at like, you know, that whole thing with him and his story with leaving, starting AEW, and then. You know, we still don't really know why he left, but I mean, I think when you look at the booking since then, you can kind of see that maybe that was part of it. But who knows? We'll never know. But it's just crazy to me that like WWE didn't really change anything in the presentation of Cody Rhodes when they got him from what he was doing in AEW. It was just that audience was a lot more open to it, and they hadn't seen him for a while because the majority of them don't watch AEW. So they hadn't really. You know, worn out on that, I guess. And you could probably blame a lot of that to, I personally think it was foolish of him to say that he was, you know, after he lost that match, I think it was against Jericho for the AEW title, that he'd never challenge again. And then just like automatically put a ceiling on what he could do. And then if you're a fan of him, you're just like, oh, well, now he's not.
Then they go and create a consolation prize for him.
Well, the secondary title was going to happen regardless.
Yeah, it was, but it felt like it was directly for him. You know what I mean? That's the way it almost was even presented, because everybody knew it was going to go to him. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Cody. I never really was. Not even years ago when he was doing WWE, when he left, when he was doing Bullet Club. I'm just not a fan of his. I don't know what it is about him. Maybe it's his face. I don't know, but. The public and the viewer at large knows Cody now also because he expanded himself outside of WWE and AEW.
Having that show was a huge part of that.
In that entertainment realm. I mean, yeah, it was a TNT or a TNN show.
Everybody has that.
Yeah, exactly. He had some sort of connection to the television network because of being an EVP. So they gave him a part on this show, and they knew that he could be the star that he's actually becoming. You know, I'm not going to disrespect him at all and say that he's trash, because he's not. I'm just not a fan of what he does. You know what I mean? He is going to be the next champion for sure. I don't doubt at WrestleMania that they're going to give it to him.
I mean, they got to. If they don't, it's just a kick in the balls to the fans almost. Because it's like, that's really what the fans want overall.
Right.
And especially after pump faking everybody last year and everything.
Exactly.
Roman's enough with Roman. If he's not going to be around to actually be on TV, we don't need him as a champion holding everything up. I'm not a big fan of like the whole, you know, not present champion. Like every time Brock Lesnar gets it, I'm just like, here we go.
It's like Hogan in the 80s. You know, you weren't going to see him very often. You were going to see him on the pay-per-views once every 3 months or 4 months back then. And then you might see him on Superstars, or you might see him on Challenge, but it was so few and far between. That's my memory of Hogan. That's one of the reasons why I didn't like him. It's because he wasn't on the TV at all times, like Savage and all the rest of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think being present is very important, especially if you're holding a title like that. That doesn't mean you have to have a title match every week, but I think you should be present, and be there for purposes and stuff.
Right. You have to further the storyline. If you're not there, what's the point? I mean, yeah, he has his mouthpiece and he has his family behind him, but still, it's like he's the main event. You have to show your face. That's like doing a hip hop show and saying, yeah, these headliners might show up or they might not show up, but come anyway. Because you don't know when he's going to be there, when he's not going to be there. It's kind of a strange way to do things. I understand why they do it. I understand he's at the level that he can take that time off.
But yeah, plus all the health issues he had and stuff that could play a part that we're not even aware of.
Right, exactly. So I mean, he's not.
But they have, they've invested a lot in him, so I get it. But I think now at this point, they proved their point that he can be good for something. We get it now. It took a long time for them to convince me of that. Right. But I see what he's good for now. But at the same time, like, he doesn't need to be holding up the championship and stuff like that. There's other people who, could use it to help further their careers and build their careers up more to where, and I think that's one of the things that when people talk about these guys like not being as good as the older guys and things like that, a lot of that is the legacies they're like allowed to build, which I think we're seeing a change in that with Triple H, which is good. But you definitely see when that ceiling would get put on certain people, it was like, this person's only going to go so far. They may get that one sniff of like, the title, but that's about it. If they probably won't win it, but like a Kofi Kingston or Dolph Ziggler, like those guys,
right.
Where like before they probably, people like that are not going to be in the main event scene for a long time. So hopefully we can kind of see that change a little bit. Not to say everybody needs to be a champion at some point, but like there's certain guys that definitely
you can see the guys that are the top guys. You just know who they are when you see them. So
perception thing too. It's like, how many times are they going to let LA Knight get close to the top without him winning a title, and then try to still push him as a big star? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, he's the big star that never gets the job done. Like,
right.
At some point, you got to
your second place at that point. It's like, Jesus Christ. I was actually going to move on to LA Knight because I think one of the biggest blunders that they made this year is giving Damian Priest the Money in the Bank. It should have been LA Knight. They've done nothing with Priest with that briefcase. Nothing. It's kind of ridiculous. So they should have done it with Knight. I believe we'll get to that later. But yeah, Priest has been a total letdown. He's got to do something with it soon. He's got to do something with it within the next, 4 months?
Yeah, it's getting very close. And is he going to do it on Seth? Like, what's going to happen?
I mean, the only way I can think that it would have to be Seth or during the Punk Seth match to make it.
And he's going to blow it. We know that much.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely going to lose it.
Unless, who knows? They really see big things in him for some reason, and a lot of people really like that guy. I don't get it personally. Like, he's okay, but I don't see him as like the guy.
He's not the guy. He's not the second guy. He's not. He's a good team player for sure.
Yeah, he could be a 2, but you got to have a really strong 1. He's going to be the 2. But yeah, he's all right. I mean, but you're right. I think them giving him the Money in the Bank over LA Knight was not very smart. But at the same time, I don't know what they would have done storyline wise or with that situation had they done that. Because then it's been basically Roman and Seth the whole time, and I just don't a rematch against Roman, I guess.
Right.
Although at that point he wouldn't have had that match.
No, they would never have had that match at that point. I think they would have.
Not many baby blow it. The Money in the Bank, you know what I mean?
Punk coming back either. They had no idea they were going to throw Punk into the mix. That's a huge monkey wrench, I think, in everybody's plans, because they had no idea that he was going to be coming until maybe October, and the only one that really probably knew was Triple H.
Well, supposedly from everything I read, it was like that week of him coming back much is when it all just kind of came together at the last second. But there wasn't much talk going on before that, other than whispers, I guess.
You throw him into the mix, it kind of upsets the whole entire apple cart, really.
Yeah, like because he slides in right in the top, like say 6 to 8 like guys, and that's if you're not as high on him as everybody else like me. Most people would say maybe top 4,
right?
Because you'd say what? Roman, Punk, Seth, maybe Drew,
maybe
Randy Orton.
Well, yeah, Randy because he came back. Yeah. I think this is Randy's last year. 2024 might be a wrap for him.
I think he's going to get another run with the title in the right storyline.
He was out all 2023, really.
Yeah.
He was out for like 18 months, a ridiculous amount of time. Came back jacked. No wellness policy when those 18 months he was off. None whatsoever. That dude came back massive. That's kind of ridiculous. And that's the case. It has to be. There's no way, dude. There's no way he had that much size. Just
gets the job done.
Yeah. Hey, if it's like USADA, if they don't do a testing pool for 6 months, you have that time to do what you need to do to get. And he was trying to get healthy too.
It's not like it's like a athletic competition for real. So who cares?
I don't care if every athlete ever juiced. You might as well. You want to make it a level playing field, let them all juice.
And it's like with the science where it's at now, I don't know. Is it at the point where that stuff's even bad for you anymore? It might be good for you.
Right. They say a lot of what they do is to heal their bodies. So
like human growth hormone, that isn't bad for you. It actually helps you heal faster. So
they just don't want you taking it because it's against the rules that they set up. That's the only thing.
Give you an advantage, obviously. But
and the only reason why they do their wellness policy is because of what happened in the 90s, because they almost got shut the fuck down. So if that would have never happened, these guys would still be all huge, and every single one of them would have no necks, and thick necks, and whatever kind of neck they needed to get. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. Cody lost WrestleMania. That was a heartbreaking moment for a lot of Cody fans. But I don't understand why they didn't pull the trigger then, because they knew Roman was going to be part-time.
I really didn't either, because it was like it just didn't. It was like, so that was what, after Sammy had his like crazy, like just out of nowhere huge popularity.
Yeah.
And they had him lose right before that to Roman. I don't know. I just was like, I didn't think they'd pull the trigger on Sammy.
Oh no. But Cody, I thought they would do it.
But the fans would have been totally fine if they had. And then I was like, all right, if they're not doing it with Sammy, then they got to do it with Cody. But no. So I don't know. It
was a weird move. They made it, and that was all still kind of Vince era. Also, he wasn't. Endeavor didn't really kick him out yet, because that's basically what they did. They kicked him out the door, and I'm sure he's trying to find a way back in. But hopefully, they don't let him in. They really need to keep him away, because it's starting to become a much better product at the end of the day. Everybody that's getting pushed is the right ones that should be getting pushed to the top.
You can see while watching it too.
Right. And then they're telling stories. They're not just hot shotting shit around and throwing titles on this one because he likes the way this one looks this week, and then fuck him, I don't like him anymore. It was a wild time the past 5 years in wrestling, at least 5 years. And then when Hunter took over, slowly but surely, it started to become back to what it really should be. It shouldn't be the Vince McMahon show at all.
I think with Hunter, you're going to see a better balance between like actual pro wrestling and the entertainment shit, because that's what he grew up watching. And I'm sure that's what he really likes, but he understands the value of the entertainment aspect and what it brings to the table, and can help them become bigger, because really that's all they ever talk about is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like if it was up to them, they, like we'd be on WWE StreamYard right now or whatever.
Right. Yeah, they want to be Disney. really.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly. And they want to be bigger than that. They want to be Disney and Sony and everybody else at the same time because they just want all our money, all of it for everything.
every time you buy bread, it's gonna say WWE on it.
Yeah.
That's what they're really. That's what he's not, and that's the way to do business. Like, why would you only want to say stay in one market? He had the right idea in the '80s to take over and go national because he saw where it could go. He really did, and that he did have a vision, and he was very successful at his vision. But then he lost it along the way. He really did. Just is what
Yeah.
it is.
And he probably is just I don't know. I don't know what it is, but like for me, pretty much since around like the ruthless aggression era, I've had issues with Vince's booking, like, and who he's had like at the top and things like that, because that is one reason like I stopped watching around that time is because I just got so sick of like it was so like just ridiculously predictable. It's like John Cena could do no wrong, and like he was just so corny to me with his stupid rapping gimmick, and it was just bad. And like JBL's the champion for like a year at one point or whatever, and I'm just like Bradshaw, like you made him lamer and then made him champion. Like he was cool in APA and like shit, but then they're like, let's make him worse.
Right.
And
Let's make him George Bush and put him out there. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They were.
I do get it in a sense, like when you put it like with the George Bush aspect, but I don't know. I just was like, he all of a sudden went from being like this drunken, like bar brawling, like just ruffian, to being trying to be like this rich guy with all this oil money kind of thing. And I was just like, what?
Right. It's like, what are you doing, bro? He did that. He lost me around the same time too.
But he's pretty much been playing that same character since then in real life.
Well, it's because of who he is. You know, he is a rich ass dude that made a shit ton of money out, but on stocks. He made a shit ton of money outside of the WWE. He's probably one of the richest wrestlers out there, and he didn't make it from wrestling, which is, hey, good on him. You know, good on him. He's a douchebag in real life, from what all the reports say. So he can be a dick. Yeah, super douchebag. And it kind of goes hand in hand. It seemed like him and Vince would probably be real buddy. It seems like that's the kind of guy Vince likes, those super douchebag rich folks. But yeah, Vince, he almost buried the company before it could survive and make a comeback. He almost wanted to put the nail in the coffin, it seems.
Yeah, but he built it up so big that it survived him.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I know he must have wanted to put that nail in the coffin because he built it, which he built the product that it is today. But his family
away from what he did and for the business and as a whole and like accomplished and stuff. But for all the good things, there's a lot of negative stuff as well.
There's a ton of negative stuff.
It's just in the history books or whatever, people will just have to hopefully show both sides of it and let people decide for themselves what they think.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the best way to do it with somebody as complicated as that, because it's like, horrible people can do great things.
Yeah, true. It's been throughout history. But
look at Kevin Spacey.
Well, let's move over to AEW. They had a hell of a year and almost the opposite direction. Like,
yeah, they had a pretty bad year.
WWE's moving up, and AEW's been kind of on the downtrend. They really had a horrible year, and a lot of bad shit happened to their company. And it's kind of Tony's own fault. I blame Tony Khan because, yeah, he has the money, but he should not be running the company. He needs to get someone in there that knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes too is having so many EVPs that are actually wrestlers too. I just don't see where you can really like draw the line to be like, all right, I'm your boss now. You're not one of the people helping me make decisions. I'm your boss in this aspect. So I find that like that whole dynamic is just, I think really it's that is the biggest issue, because you have the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and at one point you had Cody too, but Cody's no longer there, which I'm guessing this probably had a lot to do with that too. It just seems to me like you can't have like you can have Bill Russell be the coach player, but you can't have Bill Russell, Nate Archibald, Tommy Heinsohn, and Bob Cousy all coaching too. You can't, and that's basically what they're kind of doing over there with regards to them as far as title and everything. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes because they don't really let us know, but it just seems like to me like that is a kind of a conflict of interest in a way that can definitely muck up things and make it harder to make those hard decisions and kind of be like, no, Young Bucks, you kind of suck. You're going to like the bottom of the card. Sorry, I know you're EVPs. You know, you helped build this company, but you know, and that's really the tricky part. I think they've struggled because of, like you were saying, Tony Khan. I think he, at the very least, and he may be getting it, who knows, but get a little help with the booking. Although I will say, and I was going to get there eventually, but I do want to say I think they've, right now, with the way things are at, with this tournament they're doing and the product they're putting on TV right this second, are actually looking to make an upswing again because this tournament has been super dope matches. Right. And the matches they have put in front of us have history and things like that. They're doing a real good job during this tournament of mixing in the story with the tournament, which is really cool and something I didn't expect. And then you add in the stuff with the Devil still going on, and it looks like we are going to finally find out what's going on with that up this weekend. So, you know, they're headed in the right direction. I just hope they can keep doing this. But you're right. I mean, the Tony Khan thing is just like, I appreciate him, you know, doing this and giving us this option. You know, obviously he can do what he wants with it. But the whole EVP thing kind of mucks things up. Him not really seeming to be not, I won't say not in control, but when you watch that press conference with Punk and he was talking and just the look on Tony Khan's face and like the fact he wasn't like even saying much of anything and like trying to shut it down or like be like, well, anything. Cause I know if that was me, I'd be like, all right, let's save this. We're out of here. And I would have wrapped it up like after he made his first little comment there and I would have deaded it there. And then we would have been able to spin out of it and keep things somewhat civil, possibly. So I do see that being the problem. Like he needed to speak up in that moment, say something, like make a joke around it or something, like do something to try to like stop it from escalating from there. Which I feel like he did a poor job of that.
Well, there was a point where he went to go say something, and he's something like, I should have made it perfectly," and Punk shut him down. And he's like, "It's not your fucking job to make it perfectly." He just shut him down, and you could see Tony just cower. Like at that point, he should have been like, "Listen, I'm the fucking boss." You know what I mean?
I do what I want to do.
Right. Like, are you fucking, I would have been like, because he's over here, no, it's not your fucking job. I would have been, are you fucking kidding me? I don't care who the fuck you are. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the boy. And he should have came back, but he cowered and he just.
But that's the thing. It's just not going to do that.
Right.
And it almost makes you wonder if, like, backstage he's getting bullied into making some of these booking decisions by people who don't want to lose and things like that. Yeah, so it's like he just needs to do a better job with that stuff. I would say if they could get that stuff into control and then get all these stupid leaks and stuff under control a little bit too, which is kind of hard to do nowadays. But at the same time, like if you work at the company, it really, you know, the people leaking it are not the people with the good intentions. It's the people who are probably not getting booked or are just bitter assholes. So it's like, grow up, first of all, like stop leaking shit just because you're not getting booked or whatever the case may be, you know, and just like, you know, it's a lot of the stuff is self-inflicted, like wounds.
It is.
The leaks, the Tony Khan stuff, the EVPs being so involved to where I think it's probably a hindrance just based on what you would imagine. And I know I'm just going on how things normally work in a business world and an office and things like that. And just thinking about that and then them being, you know, on the roster and in control is just like, you know, I could see, like I was saying, like Bill Russell, cool, but not the whole team.
Yeah, and then nepotism runs wild. You know what I mean? Nepotism will always run wild in those situations, and that's crazy. That you're going to start promoting people that shouldn't be promoted, giving people jobs that shouldn't have those jobs. And that's what we've seen with them over the past, since the beginning, really. We've seen that.
I'm sure you've seen
EVP's fault.
The one of the Young Bucks, I don't remember which one of them, his wife was actually running like the merchandise department or whatever, and she just like is leaving now, quitting. And I guess that's one area where a lot of like wrestlers and stuff were having issues with. Like, you know, when they go to like a show, there's not enough merch and things like that. So like if that's the case, hopefully that's like the beginning of like kind of cleaning that type of stuff up a little bit and trying to make things like, you know, more about like your qualifications and not so much, you know, the outside stuff, who you are, who you're married to. And
you figure though that the Buck's wife would be good at selling merch because that's basically what they do is they sell merch. That's what they're best at. You know
the
what I
thing,
mean?
what I understand is like that is exactly what they were the best at and stuff. And from what I understand, it was the scale that it jumped up to was the issue.
So she didn't understand supply and demand. So yeah, you know, not only do the Young Bucks suck in the ring, they suck at business too. They need to
talk bad about them too much, but I'm not a huge fan. I just feel like everybody else picks on them a lot, so there's no need for me to pile on. I'll just leave it at that. Like, I wish them the best and all the success in the world. It's just their style of wrestling isn't my cup of tea. I don't like the flippy stuff. I don't like the 10 dudes standing outside the ring and catching a dude thing like we've talked about many a time.
Yeah.
You know, but they're people too, so I wish them the best. I, you know, wish no ill will on them or anything like that. It's just their wrestling isn't for me.
The other night when we were at the show, there was a Tower of Doom spot with the girls, and I forgot. And they did it perfectly. There was no wild setup. There was no. She ran in, power bombed her right away. You see how?
Yeah. No hesitation. It was. Oh, she snuck in under the rope when they were setting up their other moves. She snuck in and boom.
Yeah.
Instead, they were all kind of standing there waiting for her. It looked natural. But and those are the little things too. It's like if I was to like my perfect wrestling, you know, is like everything looks like it could possibly be real. You know what I mean? None of the extra stuff like the what is it, the Canadian Destroyer or whatever that move is.
Yeah.
That move is so like fake to me because I'm just like, well, the person getting it has to go with it, otherwise it doesn't happen. So like, this is a stupid move. It looks cool, but it's dumb.
The person getting it is actually doing all the work in that situation. Right. They're flipping the other person around. So yeah, if you understand physics and the way, you know, the way things work in the world, it's like, oh yeah, some of the shit they do is like, all right, you know, come on now, let's go. That wouldn't hurt anyone.
Which, you know, if you like that stuff though, it's good to have some of that, a little bit of that on the card. But I'd rather watch like the Lucha Brothers, like Penta and Phoenix do it rather than the Young Bucks. But
or you get a guy like Ricochet to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Logan Paul. Because like that, Logan Paul exploded this year. I wanted to touch on Logan Paul because he did explode this year.
You can touch on Logan Paul all you want.
We just don't be a chomo. We've talked about it. So yeah, Logan Paul blew up. He's an excellent wrestler. Nobody can take that shit away from him. He's a douchebag in life. We know this. It's been documented. He's not a good person. He does a lot of shady shit. But in that ring, that kid is freaking amazing. I don't care what you say.
He's a good athlete. I mean, you can't do
that good flippy shit, and he makes it look real. He does. He makes it look real. And the Bucks and all those guys over there could learn a lot. They should have signed him. You know what I mean? They could have learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but you got to think though too. He's also wrestling the WWE style of that too, which is a lot more reined in and more, you know, closer to what could be considered looking somewhat legitimately real.
And they actually practice it, and they take other people's advice. And then when they say, "Hey, you know, that's not working out for you. You should do it this way," then they actually. I'm sure they record everything, show it back. I don't think AEW is at that level of training at all.
I think the issue with that too is like there's so many styles in AEW to where you're going to have almost different schools. Because I think that's one thing that kind of was missed on that whole like I don't want to take advice thing. Like, yeah, you should definitely take the advice, you dumbass. But you also got to think too, if you're wrestling a completely different style, then your advice might not really be very applicable to what I'm doing. If I'm like the best at what I'm doing and it's kind of my thing, so wouldn't I know how to do it better than you might? However, to not listen to the advice when it's given is foolish, because you never know what you could learn.
Hmm.
So I get both sides of it, but you definitely like just the way it was stated in the whole thing. It was just kind of like, oh, you just sound like an insufferable douche who thinks he knows everything.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see Hangman being anyone really anymore. He had his run. I think he's made it to where he's going to make it to. I don't ever see him in WWE. I don't think they're going to deal with something like that. I don't think Hunter, I don't think Shawn Michaels would deal with that in NXT.
Well,
and now that Punk's there,
I was think Punk there. I don't see it happening either, because I think if, based on what I know of that situation, if Punk was to talk to, like, say, Triple H about that exact situation, Triple H would probably 99 out of, well, no, 100% of the time probably agree with Punk, because they had agreed to talk about one thing, and then he just flew off on the handle about his nonsense, which is funny because Seth Rollins' promo against him was almost the exact same thing. This is my home. I'm not going to let you come in here and destroy it. Blah blah blah. It was like literally verbatim, almost the same.
but
But
Seth
yeah, man, it's crazy just how it's gone. But like I was saying before, I think they're not done yet.
No, they're not. But
I think they keep going. I mean, and they have opportunity too, because they still have a great roster. For me personally, what I wish they would do is get rid of like the Orange Cassidys of the world. I love Danhausen, so we can keep him. He's the exception. But like Orange Cassidy, I walked by that dude one time, and when I was at work one day, he was in a building where I was working. Just happened to be. I won't get into detail, but I walked by him and I looked down at him, and he just was like a demure man, like a little skinny little dude, and I was just like, I can't keep this dude serious. Like, and I had already been thinking that watching him on TV, and then seeing him in person, I was just like, I'm pretty sure I could fuck him up. Excuse my language.
Like Jim Barnett says, middle schoolers, man. They're
Yeah,
like middle schoolers.
And it's just like, well, with him too, it's like, all right, but I wouldn't say that about a Rey Mysterio. I think the difference is because Rey Mysterio's character is like serious, and like the whole him being small thing plays into his whole shtick, where Orange Cassidy's already a little dude, and now you're adding all that goofy, I'm going to keep my hands in my pockets and just like play hit, like all that laziness, like thing. Like,
hey, book him as a world beater, man. He was going on a run beating everybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then he has that lame finisher that he shares with Roman Reigns, the stupid Superman punch. And I'm like, wait, so I thought closed fists were illegal, but apparently not if it's your finisher.
Right.
And then most people punch the whole match anyway, so that really, but like, it's just.
The rules don't matter. We keep changing the rules. It only matters if someone calls it out in the ring. But yeah, I think one of the biggest slap in the faces that's going to happen to AEW in 2024 is that night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania are going to be headlined by two of their biggest stars that left their company on bad terms. That's wild to me. You're going to have CM Punk and Rollins night 1. You're going to have Cody and Roman night 2. It's kind of a foregone conclusion. But Tony, it's like how do you recover from that? It's like almost like shameful.
Well, I think they very nicely to do that though. They got Will Ospreay coming in, who's one of the best. Like, that dude is money.
Yeah,
so good at the ring, and he can talk now too. So like he's really putting the whole package together. You got him coming in. I mean, you still got MJF. We're gonna see who the devil is. We got Swerve Strickland, who's on the come up too. They're gonna have a solid younger base over the next year, I think. And if they make the right decisions, I think they'll be in a good position. It's just, I think people got to remember too, like WWE is the Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL of professional wrestling, even though they refuse to call it that because they're donkeys. But it is what it is. So like, I just, there's so much history there. They've been around so long. My entire life, I've been watching them. You know what I mean? So it's like, people are kind of foolish and stupid to make the straight up one-to-one comparison and really expect them to be like, oh, they're going to challenge WWE. Can they really though?
Not
I don't.
global.
But they can be the XFL, they can be the CFL, they can be, that secondary league that still has really good players when they can pay for them, which they can because they got a billionaire as well. And then over time, they could potentially build themselves up to a time where they could compete with WWE. I just think it's way too soon for people to be thinking that, 5 years in that they're going to be just as big or even as big as WCW. People forget WCW was around for a very long time too, because that came out of the NWA that started in what, like the 30s or 40s or some shit. I don't even know, but it was a long time. So
It was Jim Crockett Promotions. It was
right.
Jim
And
Crockett
before that, it was
Promotions
something
for
else.
years. Yeah, for years and years and years. And then he had to sell it off. He sold it to Ted Turner. Then they left the NWA and they became WCW.
Yeah. But
That
people live in this little microcosm of what they know, which not just because you know certain things doesn't mean other things aren't out there. And it's just like, I think people lose the perspective. And I think it's a waste of time to do the one-to-one comparison. It's just like we should feel spoiled and just enjoy that we have all these choices right now because it's a great for professional wrestling. If you were around during like the Monopoly era of WWE, like I don't see how you complain.
I think why people compare them. The reason why people compare them apples to apples is because there's been no real competition. There's been no competition, so it's just like any sport. You put another team out there, you're like, oh my god, they're so great. But now this team that's been dominating for 40 years, they're great. The team that it's almost like Golden State Warriors. It's almost like the Golden State Warriors, in my opinion. Golden State Warriors win a couple championships. They're trying to put them up there with the top teams in the whole entire league history.
That's but not the Lakers and Celtics yet.
Right, exactly. You have these teams that like don't ever disrespect their name. Put some respect on their name. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very similar. That's why that people are so enamored by trying to put that comparison because that's what we do anyway as humans. We compete. It's just natural. And we throw competition on anything else. We'll bet on two cockroaches running up a wall if there's money in it. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. So I think that's the main reason why. But they're not. They're not the same at all. And you're right. They're 5 years in. They've made a lot of mistakes, but they've had a lot of hits too. And right now, I think going into 2024, if the Devil storyline plays out the right way, but they make MJF lose to Joe and not Swerve, that's a huge mistake. I think Swerve should be the next champion.
I'm a huge Samoa Joe fan, and I
am too. I love Joe.
But storyline wise, it's just so hard because it's like I do want to see Joe win it, but at the same time, I do want to eventually see like Swerve versus MJF for the title.
They started planting the seeds already. So if they were smart, they would have worked Swerve into the Devil storyline. They would have made him the Devil. And I mean, he could have had his own thing going with Hangman at the same time and then just kept that on the back burner. And that would have been a smart move. And because I think Swerve could have played that part very well. Even my wife, she's not a huge wrestling fan. When she saw Swerve, she said he looks like a bad guy in a movie.
Yeah.
Boom, that's what you want. That's exactly what you want. I think he should be the next. If he's going to reign, he should have at least a year.
It's crazy too because I remember watching Lucha Underground and I didn't even put two and two together that he was Killshot until recently.
I saw an interview with him and he said it. Yeah, I was like, damn, no shit.
And then you look at like his matches from like a couple years ago and just the evolution of his look alone. Like the dude looks like a star. Like he's everything about it. Like the way he carries himself, the way he dresses, like everything. The dude, like he's got it. Whatever it is, he has it. And they should not miss an opportunity to put that guy at the top. And especially with him being of his racial background, like that's a huge opportunity for them to expand the business too and get more into the I hate saying it, the urban fucking whatever, however you want to put it, like get more awareness and stuff like that. But also the guy deserves it more than anything. The dude's been like, there's a few guys actually over there that really deserve, like him, Christian, Christian's been killing it for the longest time. Like, there's been ups and downs in this recent storyline, kind of, but like when you give him a mic and let him go, like he's been killing it.
I think with him, they're giving him too much time right now, and that's why the story's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like they don't know when to back off a little bit and take it away from us. They should have dropped. He should have dropped the championship. Maybe an injury angle, gone away for a month because he deserves some time off too. He hasn't. The guy's 50 years old. He hasn't had time off in what, a year and a half. He's been hustling. Give the dude a vacation. Give him a month, and then he can come back. I think if he came back after a month of being injured too, he'd be a huge baby face instead of a massive heel. I think totally flip.
They probably will flip him to a baby face once this whole storyline ends, depending if he takes a little break after and then comes back. I think if he takes a break and comes back, he'll probably come back babyface and become friends with Edge again, and they'll do whatever they're going to do tag team.
I think that's their ultimate goal with both of them, is to make them Edge and Christian again and give them both that last run together, and then they probably retire together at this point.
It's possible. It's very possible. I do see a tag team run for them before it's over, said and done. But yeah, man, they're set up to do well in the near future. It's just about making sure they pull the trigger at the right time on certain things and don't lose focus on those things, and kind of just right the ship too. And they're on the right track, I will say.
Yeah,
based on what I've seen recently.
Let's move on to Mr. CM Punk. I know he's your favorite, but he was part of the two biggest news stories of the year, basically. He got fired and then he got rehired. And those were probably two of the breaking the internet wrestling stories of the year. Tony, I think Tony fired him to show a little dominance. You know what I mean? The whole I was afraid for my life was
but that's, I mean, that takes away from all of it.
Exactly. It's like I don't think, I hate harping on Tony because he's just a pussy, man. He can't. He is. He just doesn't have it in him to be a facilitator. He is not a facilitator. And for him to say, I feared for my life, so we're going to fire him, that's kind of like, dude, you could have made a statement and took your company by the balls by firing CM Punk, but you went the opposite way. And I get that it's the culture of the day and it's the culture of how everyone would react in the media and that sort of thing. He doesn't want to be Vince. I get that. But it can't be a committee. It can't be.
Yeah, man, I think personally, here's what I would have done. Now, I am a billionaire, so I can deal with any losses associated with the fallout of this, right? I tell these guys, all right, we're all sitting in a room right now. Punk, the Bucks, Omega, me. Sit down in the room, and I say to them, either you guys have figured out a way now that you've made this a fucking thing all over the internet and you guys got in this fight and it's the biggest news story ever in the last decade in wrestling. How are we turning this into money? It's on you guys to figure it out. We're not leaving this room until you do, or you're all fucking fired.
Right.
All of you are in or all of you are out, period. I don't give a fuck. I'll pay your rest of your salaries till they're over. I don't care. I'm not fucking having this shit, period.
Move on.
We're making money off of it.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that blows my mind about the whole thing. And from what I understand, like we discussed before, it seemed like Kenny Omega was with it and ready to make some money off of it. But the Buckaroos apparently didn't want to do that until like a year had passed or something, and he didn't get in any arguments or anything backstage or anything stupid like that. And it's like, I think a lot of the time when you're dealing with creative stuff, which is, this is kind of creative, is, you know, wrestling is that when you're a wrestler. It's just like an artist making music or an actor or anything like that. When you're passionate about what you do, you can come off as angry and like hard to work with at times. And it's not because you're trying to be difficult. It's because you have a vision and you have a certain artistic thing you're trying to get done and you're passionate about it. and sometimes that comes off the wrong way to certain people, and that could be part of the issue with Punk and them and things like that, because you see how he talks. Like at that, I could tell in that press conference, like to me, he wasn't a guy that was ready to get in a fight. He was just a guy who was just like, no, it's fucking bullshit, like blah 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 blah, like, you know what I mean? Like we've been there.
He's fucking
Yeah,
chill.
no, fuck this. This is dumb. Like what the hell? But you're not like going around punching people and shit, and like you're just venting. And maybe you don't say things the nicest way, but nothing you say is actually wrong. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. They should have done business. In the end, the best thing for AEW this past year would have been the Young Bucks sucking it up and doing what was better for the company, which would have been doing business with CM Punk. Because you cannot tell me, after all that shit, if we would have got a blow-off match in storyline after that, and they would have switched that into like storyline mode, that wouldn't have been one of the biggest storylines of the year and been rivaling the Bloodline story.
Oh, for sure.
It may have done more.
And they would have still had Punk working for them.
Yeah. I mean, come on. They had CM Punk doing interviews in ESPN before he came back to AEW, talking about things. He couldn't get into detail, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's how big it was. ESPN was covering it because whether love him or hate him or indifferent about him, CM Punk is news worthy for whatever reason. People want to see it. They want to hear it. So I think that was the biggest mistake they made. Not turning that into storyline and making money off of it, because it would have been a lot of goddamn money.
Definitely was. And then a month later, he comes back at Survivor Series. It's like, what the hell? No one ever would have thought, especially that fast. If that was Vince, that would have never happened. That would have never happened. Even if their relationship was repaired, Vince would have never taken him back that fast, unless he really just wanted to put a nail in the coffin of AEW. You know what I mean? He would have done it then. Hunter, he did both. He's like, all right, let's bury our shit and let's put a nail in these bitches, because if we bring you back a month later in Chicago again, let's see how this works out. And it's going to work out financially well for all of them because they're smart. And even Rollins is willing to put his shit away to make money.
Yeah. Or the whole time he was doing that because he knew if he were to come back one day, that angle would be there waiting. You know, some guys are that smart. They think about stuff like that.
Yeah. They should, in that business, they should think about the future. You don't think about 2-3 weeks in advance and try to change. That was a Vince thing too, always switching shit up because he couldn't tell a long-term story anymore. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah. And I will say this, we make fun of Tony Khan. Well, I don't make fun of Tony Khan, but we criticize Tony Khan a lot. And that's one thing I will say. He doesn't abandon stuff prematurely like Vince would do. He does stick with things. Even if it sucks, he's going to play it out.
Right. Even if it's great and then it turns to suck, he's still going to stick with it. He's going to see it through. That is one thing and a bad thing. That's one thing he does do right, is he does try to stick with it. But yeah, Punk coming back, that was probably the biggest thing to happen in WWE all year, bigger than WrestleMania, bigger than the Royal Rumble, bigger than anything else, was just his walking out, getting yelled at by Seth, and then waving to some fans. That was wild. Not a word spoken, and he's back in the WWE. It's kind of a crazy thing. I never thought it would happen.
Yeah, me neither did I. But honestly, when he came back the first time on Rampage, I think that was a bigger moment. Because he'd been gone from wrestling, period, for 14 years or whatever it was. So, like, you know, it was definitely a bigger moment. But when he came out at Survivor Series, it was kind of like to me, it felt like the Vince era is over.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though he was known for putting his stuff aside to work with people with money. And I think in the end he would have with Punk, but although I don't know, he did fire him on his wedding day. So I don't know, but it definitely felt like that more than anything. It was like a page turning in a way.
And Hunter was so smart about it too, because he waited for the graphics to run. He waited for the logo to pop up, and it was almost the end. And then that music hit, and it was like everyone was like, "Holy shit!" You know, that was such a smart move.
And it was, because I feel like Vince would do his version of unpredictable, but his version of unpredictable was so predictable.
Mm.
And just little things like that, to me, that right there is like, it was like the first time you saw Iron Man, or no, the Incredible Hulk, and fucking Thunderbolt Ross is at the bar, and Tony Stark walks in and sits down at the bar, and you were like, wait, it's bigger than just this movie? And it was like that moment to me. It was a very comparable moment because it was like, oh, okay, we're not playing by the same old rules anymore. Like, they're going to do some different stuff. And that's what that movie moment was for me, because that was the beginning of the MCU, and look what that came to be and everything. And that was like the first moment where you saw it was going to be something different than what they would normally do. That this was the same thing. So I'm excited. I definitely can't wait to see what's going to happen. I'm excited for Royal Rumble and then the road to WrestleMania. But this past year has been crazy, crazy in wrestling. The Punk stuff alone, you could do a whole episode just on him.
We've done quite a few. I want to roll into some 2024 predictions before we wrap this up. What do you think? Both companies. Let's just go with, who do you think is going to be the longest reigning champ in both companies? And I want to know, who do you think is going to win the Rumble?
The Rumble, I think, will probably be Cody. I think it'll be Cody. If it's not Cody, it's going to be Punk.
I'm thinking Punk.
I think it may be. I think the money thing. I think the smart thing to do would be give Cody a really good showing in it. Maybe have him screwed somehow and eliminated. Have Punk win. Have Punk challenge Rollins because of all the shit, and then somehow get Cody to challenge Roman again, and then he beats Roman at Mania. I think that's probably how it's going to end up playing out, but we'll see. Either way, I want to see Cody versus Roman. But I'm sorry, what were you were asking me to begin with? I got off track.
The Rumble winners, which you already went through that.
Okay,
going to WrestleMania, I know you want to see Cody and Roman for sure. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't think that we're going to get anything else, because that's what
we should. If you don't go that route, then last year was just kind of a waste to me.
Right. If they try to work Punk into Roman at WrestleMania, I think that's the wrong move. I think that'll have everybody turn on Punk, and because Cody is so over, I don't ever see Cody ever being a heel ever again. I think he's a babyface for the rest of his life, like his father. I don't see them doing it. I just don't see them doing it the way his popularity is. But who's going to be the longest reigning AEW champion in 2024?
In 2024?
Yep.
I will say real quick about Cody. I think that they definitely should give him the title too, because that family really deserves it, just based on who his father was, who his brother is. Both of them never got it, and both of them deserved it, in my opinion. Both one of the greatest characters ever. But longest reigning AEW champion of the next year, 2024. So who we got now as champs? We got Christian as TNT champ. We got MJF as world champ. The Faceless Goons are now the Ring of Honor tag champs, but they don't count. So we're talking AEW. Who's the AEW tag champs? Oh, Big Bill and Ricky Stark. Oh shit. I feel like any one of those three is bound to change at any given moment. I'm going to go with the Acclaimed with the Trios Championship.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them losing that for a while.
I think it's going to be Swerve, man. I think they're going to pull the trigger at some point. I don't think it'll be at the beginning of the year, whatever their first pay-per-view is. I think in the middle of the year, and they'll give them a good 6 months into 2025, maybe 8-month reign. But I think MJF is done as champ. He's had his run. It's their longest reigning, whatever. But yeah, I think he's totally done as champ for quite a while. I don't think they should even put him back. I think they should heal him up, literally both ways. Let him take some time off and heal, and then come back as this mega heel that he should be at all times. Unless he decides to leave, we have no idea what his contract status is. He could.
I think he extended.
Who knows? You know, he could leave. Who knows? You know,
I think some shorter runs too. Like you know, back in the day, they'd have like 6-month runs here, there, sometimes 3-4 month runs for certain people. Not every championship reign needs to be super long.
Right.
It's more about adding that notch to your belt, saying I've been a champion. You know, a lot of the time than how long you were champion.
I definitely think Swerve's going to get it though. Hopefully, I want Swerve to get it. You're right; he deserves it. I think anyone on that roster, he deserves it the most.
Right now, yeah. If you can't give it to Christian because he's TNT champ, yeah.
Yep.
And we thought we said where we think that's going, so we know he's out of the picture in that respect.
Right, but I think Punk wins the Rumble. I've already said who I think main events WrestleMania. I think Punk wins against Rollins. I definitely think they're going to give it to him, and they're going to turn him heel because he should be. Because right now he's not. They're both kind of.
I think if he does win, that's how he's got to do it, is by turning heel in the moment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Paul Heyman. He's going to be up involved. They should run it. They should just run it because that's what people want to see. You know, that's what everyone would want to see.
I mean, you could run back Rollins after that too for his revenge.
And for all that I don't want to see it, Cody's going to be champion this year. Oh, well, next year, 2025. He's definitely going to do it. They have to. They have to. If not, it's just disrespectful at this point. And I don't think Triple H is as disrespectful to legacy as McMahon was. Because that's what it really is McMahon did not care about anyone's legacy but his own.
Or ones he created himself.
Well, that's what I mean by his own. The WWE legacy. That's the only thing he cared about. He didn't care about your name coming in at all. He usually buried. Look what he did to Kerry Von Erich. He buried his whole name. He called him the Texas Tornado, not even Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado.
It's funny though. I loved him as a kid. I didn't even know who Kerry Von Erich was, but I was like, "Oh, Texas Tornado."
Yeah, neither did I.
I was like, "Oh shit!"
Right, and you learn as you get older. You're like, "Oh my god, that movie was dope." By the way, I want to add that to the yearly wrap up. I'm gonna write a review. I'm actually working on it now. I should have it posted up by tomorrow. And that it's not a wrestling movie for anyone out there that's watching this. And I mean, if you don't like wrestling, you're probably not watching this. But if you happen to see this and you say, well, I don't like wrestling, it's not a wrestling movie at all. It's not a wrestling movie. It's a story of a family that happened to be wrestlers.
Yeah. And definitely, if you haven't yet, watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode on it. Crazy story.
Yeah, I've seen
it. You don't know the story. It's, man, sad.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad movie too. A very sad movie. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy year for wrestling. It's been a crazy year for us over here at the Culture Corner. I appreciate everyone that's tuned in, that's rocking with us. I appreciate my co-host, Shah Elemental. Big up to you, my friend. I know we got a lot of good shit coming up in the future. You have a lot of good shit coming up in the future. We've named it off so many times. Tell us where we can find you on your social medias.
Yeah, Sean Wick on Facebook, Sean Wick 978 on Instagram. You can also get artist page Shah Elemental on Facebook, et cetera. Look out for new music coming soon in January. The International Dastardly with me and Bo fought. Real quick too, before we go, I want to. Each of us will say my MVP of wrestling for the past year has been Christian Cage, just for making me laugh so often.
MVP. I'm going with Rhea. Rhea's my MVP. Nah, man, it's not just because I'm in love with her. She's carried Raw.
At least you admit it's not just because you're in love.
No, she's been carrying the women's division. Really, there's nothing really more.
Don't get me wrong. That look was just because it was so predictable of you to say that. That's
I know, but she's been carrying Raw. She is running Raw. Her and Rollins basically carry that show. So Rollins, Seth frickin' Rollins, Mr. Frank.
I can't stand that guy.
I know you do. I know you love him. And your favorite match is going to be CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Two guys. Who the hell can you root for?
You got sloppy old man and friggin' curb stomping douchebag.
Right. You gotta flip the coin on your winner, man. Like Jesus Christ, you're not gonna enjoy a match that's gonna be pretty damn good.
It depends. Who knows? Maybe they'll put on a classic and get me, buying in.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, it's been a crazy year, man. Like I said, we appreciate every one of you out there for tuning in. we're going to be wrapping this up in a minute. So catch him all at his socials. Catch us over at our socials. You know how we do. Culture Corner Wrestling. We out. Peace.
You're.
He's going for the gorilla press. He got it, did it. Oh, it's over.
My life story like Black Rob drinking OE. That brolic shit broken down like Matt Hardy. See through these eyes and people my mind see. It's fucked up, ain't it? No need to remind me. But let me get to it. The stupid shit I was doing left other men dead of their lives is just ruined. From ODs to stick-ups going wrong, I stay sharp. Can think the way my mind think, dog. You not evolved. Used to snip pills out straws in bathroom stalls.